Welcome everybody to Boot Wizard, the place where I, James, am the great defender of the Phantom GT. This is a boot that I really liked. Now, it had its flaws. I was willing to accept those. I was willing to discuss with other people why absolutely it had flaws, but I still loved the boot. However, there's a couple of things, these flaws that I speak of, that could have been rectified with a Phantom GT2. I even made a whole video on things I wanted to see on the Phantom GT2. Well, the Phantom GT2 is here. Right here, in my hand. And, well, it's practically the same, isn't it? Like, come on. To talk about the upper, we have brought out the predecessor to the Phantom GT line, the Phantom Vision 2 here, mainly because this brand new texture, this brand new GT on the outside of the GT2 does remind me somewhat of what you got on this instep area and somewhat through the rest of the boot on the Phantom Vision 2. So it feels like they've kind of gone back to something that they felt worked before that maybe has been changed, in their eyes, a little too much between generations. It's not exactly the same as what you got on the Vision 2, which had kind of a three-pronged approach to the grip shape. On the GT2, it's like a V with wings. Flying V? Mighty Ducks reference, anybody? So it's very similar in terms of the way that it feels, the texture, and to some degree the shape, without being absolutely identical. However, I think the biggest similarity on the upper texturing between the GT2 and the Vision 2, and therefore the biggest difference from the GT2 and the GT1, is the feeling of the texturing in hand and on feet. So this is quite a matte, rough finish, very similar to what you got on the Vision 2. They have a real similar vibe. This feeling like a more raised version of what you got on the outstep of the Vision 2. You could definitely argue that it feels more abrasive, like it's going to have more of an impact than what you got on the Vision 2. And that's always a good thing when you're trying to get extra grip, extra movement on the ball from your boot texturing. The GT1 had all of these lines that ran around the boot, and this feels to me a little more tacky. It's less so much about rough grip on the ball and more like an almost rubbery, tacky feeling that runs throughout it that I really enjoyed. Now, there's nothing wrong with the change here, and it absolutely works, and the difference is minimal. However, I must say, I probably prefer this slightly tackier sensation on the GT1. It just lends itself to me feeling that little bit more like the ball is kind of stuck to my boot, rather than getting something that actually will impact my passes and my long balls, my ability to hit balls with maybe curve or spin, which I think the GT1 does. So I think this definitely has more influence over the ball. However, this felt a little nicer for dribbling, keeping that ball close. But honestly, the difference is super minimal here. And if I'm being honest, slightly frustrating. Why is it frustrating? Well, it's because, and we knew this all along, the GT was put to us with this generative texture that gives the GT its name as this big revolution. All these hours of technology and work and research had gone into providing this boot with its perfect organization of these little lines to give you the perfect amount of grip, swerve, and just general influence over the ball from each area of the boot. This was a huge part of the marketing campaign for the GT. Within one generation, and not even a year, they have completely dropped it and essentially proven that this GT Talk was barely anything more than some marketing, because they've dropped it for an entirely different pattern. This doesn't have a pattern, it's just one shape that runs all the way around the boot and some grip texturing, and it just proves that a lot of what we get from companies is marketing, and we have to accept that. We knew that anyway. It wasn't difficult to see that on the GT1, because all you have to do is look at the Nike swoosh here, where you have all of these lines that do give you texture, but it's right in the middle of the GT area, and clearly that is there for aesthetics rather than anything else. They have fixed that on the GT2, where it does run a consistent pattern, but it is just kind of proof that we shouldn't really buy into some of the marketing, even when it comes to technology, from companies. I will give Nike their due. They haven't made a big song and dance about this GT2. It was released alongside the Tiempo Legend 9. It kind of went under the radar a little bit, and there it was. It dropped. The boot is available to buy, and they haven't made a huge deal or new generation. There's barely been any marketing from it at all. So I will give them their due. They're not really trying to push it, but the fact that it exists frustrates me, even if it's a boot that I do like. I think I'm done moaning, so let's have a look at the tooling. And this is exactly the same as what we got on the previous generation. No changes made here. Not a bad thing at all. You get this strengthening bar that runs down the outside with this kind of semi-split sole idea. The kind of conical studs that have been split into two semicircles and maneuvered off to kind of give you a bit of rotational grip as you're moving, and these angled chevron bladed studs. I really like this sole plate. It's one of my favorite sole plates around. It's nice and stiff and stable without being overly so. You get decent spring back, and for a sole plate that's not on a speed boot, the kind of alternative with that slightly better rotational movement, this is definitely one to consider. And I said recently in a chat with my friend Tom Della Football that this is probably my favorite stud pattern and sole plate for goalkeepers as well. That video is coming soon, so do get subscribed for that. Overall, no changes, really good sole plate, really nice overall movement, and really nice and stable where it needs to be, and nice and springy in the forefoot. No complaints. Okay, let's weigh these, get them on the scales, and see if there is a genuine difference. Now, I haven't weighed these before this point, so let's see what happens. Let's get the GT1 on first, and now these are in brand new condition. These aren't the pair I wear. I have the white and pink launch colorway in SG. It's been my go-to SG boot for a while. These come in at 193 grams, size US 8. So let's get those off and see what that compares like to the brand new GT2. These are slightly used, and 211 grams. So these are coming in, okay, not an amount you're gonna notice on feet, but a full 9 grams heavier than the GT1, and that's obviously has to be down to, of course, that little bit of Flyknit, because this is the DF version, but mainly this top GT being changed. This is obviously a thicker, maybe more durable, and certainly more, it feels like a heavier duty GT, and that shows through in the weight. Now, this shouldn't be a deciding factor on whether you get the GT2 or the GT1, but definitely worth noting that they have made a significant enough difference to the upper of the boot for it to make a weight change, but does come mainly in the GT. Okay, let's talk a little value for money. How much are these actually going to cost you? Now, 250 euros will get you the low cut version of the GT2. 270 euros will get you the dynamic fit collar mid cut version. And if you are in Australia, New Zealand, that kind of area, it does seem like there's been a little bit of a price bump compared to the previous generation, but Europe and the US seems to be exactly the same. These are standard Nike prices, so there's nothing out of the ordinary, nothing we weren't expecting. As I said before, avoid the DF collar version, save yourself 20 euros and go for the low. It's exactly the same boot with about this much fly in it. And if you are looking to get the best value for money on a pair of Phantom GTs, I do of course have to suggest picking up a color of the GT1s that has gone on sale. It's just going to save you a bit of money, and the difference between the two is so minimal, it's not really worth picking up the GT2 at this point unless you really like the colorway. If you do want to pick up a GT1 or a GT2, FG, AG, SG, DF, non-DF, then do hit the link down in the top pinned comment. That'll take you through to your Boot Wizard approved retailer where you can pick them up. And finally, let's talk about the fit and comfort. If you wore a pair of Phantom GT1s, then you know exactly how the GT2 fits. Now, myself included, when I got these in hand and when I saw the original images, I thought they might have changed the shape slightly, because if you look at this, it just looks like a narrower silhouette, and it definitely comes to a narrower point in the toe. However, this is all an optical illusion, and it's because of this big stripe that runs around the front of this boot makes the boot look that little bit wider, and the way that this has been designed with the two stripes running down either side, it just makes everything look like it's pulling into a point. However, get them on feet, they are exactly the same. There is no major difference in the heel, the midfoot, anywhere at all. So if you do have a wider foot, these should be absolutely fine for you. These have a lot of width running through them and you'll have no issues at all. If you're looking to find out what length you need to buy, what size you need to buy, then they still run that quarter size long, that half size long. And realistically, if your current boots fit you very, very close to the end and there's hardly any room, stick true to size. If you have a little bit of room on the end, maybe half a thumb, maybe slightly more on the end of your boots, then definitely look to go down half a size in the Phantom GT and the GT2. These are still a supremely comfortable boot and absolutely one that you should consider picking up. I still think that they are a fantastic football boot and one that I really like. My only gripe is the fact that the update is absolutely so minimal and has done very few of the things that us as a boot buying public may have liked to see. But again, not a big fuss made about it, and I would hope that in a Phantom GT3, or if the GT name gets replaced, we do get a few more updates. Do let me know what you think down in the comments. Of course, if you want to cop a pair, hit that top pinned link. Get subscribed to Boot Wizard for more of my content, both boots, socks, and all things football. But that's all from me here today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.